Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. Now, I'd like us to quickly visit this story about the IEBC, the nominees of the IEBC Commission. We all know that Erastus Ethekon was the one who was picked by William Samoei Ruto to be the one preferred to chair the IEBC.
So that they know even how to vote. This will be a game changer.
Now, the courts have given William Ruto a shock by issuing a ruling that blocks the vetting and approval of the IEBC nominees pending the determination of a petition filed by two people. And as for the court ruling, vetting of the nominees cannot take place at least until May 29th. And this is definitely a setback in the quest to set up a new commission ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, before we go further on this story, ladies and gentlemen, you all heard what Rigathi Gachagua said about Erastus Ethekon.
And Mr. President, why people are concerned that this election may not be free and fair is that you, the chairman umeweka IEBC, is a friend and a colleague of Josephat Nanok, who is your deputy chief of staff. So people are concerned that IEBC will be run from State House.
So the opposition fraternity have objected William Ruto's selection. Now, what is the implication of the IEBC Commission matters that setup? In relation to this ruling, what do you think is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? Isn't this going to be a delay? Because the barring has been until 29th of May. That is what the courts have said. The courts have issued a ruling that blocks the vetting until 29th of May. Now, again, this is happening at a time whereby Senate and the National Assembly are fighting over the vetting, because the Senate is complaining that they have been sidelined in this formation of the IEBC commission, because they want to be part and parcel of the vetting. So they are already complaining about this. So this story is involving, and Kenyans are talking about it, ladies and gentlemen. So before we explore the story further, ladies and gentlemen, kindly take this opportunity and support this channel by liking this video to enable you to share the video to many people. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed before. And to our existing subscribers, I want to continue thanking you so much, because without you, this channel won't have grown. Without wasting much of your time, ladies and gentlemen, let us delve into this petition. The petitioners from a civil society group also claimed that some names on the IEBC interview list were included unconstitutionally and raised concerns about interference from the executive. This is how the report read: that the nominations are not only illegal but also unconstitutional for failing the requirements of the public appointments as espoused under Articles 10, 232 and 250, Chapter 3 and 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, as read with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act and the Public Appointments Act, Chapter 7F, Laws of Kenya. This is a statement that was delivered in that petition, ladies and gentlemen. So the bone of contention is on how these nominees were selected by the IEBC selection panel. You all remember sometimes before winding up on the IEBC chair, you heard that some names were added onto the list of people to be interviewed. Now, the IEBC selection panel disputed those remarks and said that that was information that was not correct, and one was only meant to taint their image. So they, in very few words, they rejected that move. Now, After the ruling on Monday, two things could happen ahead of the May 29th. If the petition is still under consideration by May 29th, the court could decide to extend the conservatory orders. On the opposite end, the court could decide to lift the orders if there are no sufficient grounds to halt the vetting. This will pave way for the National Assembly to proceed with the vetting and approval. So two scenarios are going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen. One, if the petition is still under consideration by May 29th, the court could decide to extend the conservatory orders. It means the vetting will again be halted until further notice. But if there are no sufficient grounds to halt the vetting by May 29th, then the courts will pave way for vetting, and the National Assembly will subsequently proceed with its plan of vetting the IEBC nominees. And that would mean the panel shall have, the IEBC selection panel shall have delivered the names to the Kenyans in accordance with the law. Now we are faced with two scenarios. Either istopishwe ama istopishwe kabisa ili sasa maybe isongezwe mbele, ama waseme kwamba kwa sababu hakuna grounds za kusimamisha hii mambo, wacha National Assembly iendelee na vetting. Sasa ikifanyika hivyo utapata kwamba ile formation ya IEBC itakuwa imefaulu. But ladies and gentlemen, there's something I want us to look at here. Now, considering that the statements from Rigathi Gachagua and the weight of the statements of Rigathi Gachagua matters Josephat Nanok and Erastus, a relationship. If that statement has weight, let's say for example it has weight, don't you think this will already dent the image of IEBC? Because already the words from Rigathi Gachagua zimeshtua serikali. Katika ile interview yake katika ile show kwa ile uliona katika YouTube, tayari ile statement imeshtua serikali kabisa. Serikali ilishtuka kabisa. Mimi chenye naona ni kwamba if at all most like the courts might decide that hii panel manake tayari hii nomination tayari iko na madoadoa, so kitu ifanyike, hawa watu wasimamishwe wote alafu waregeshwe, wachaguliwe na wapya. But the big question is, if that is to be done, will the opposition now okay the move, or how does the opposition want this thing to be conducted? Because honestly speaking, the constitution gives the president some powers in that nomination. It does not give the opposition some powers in the nominations. The person who has to play a major role is the president. I think hapo ndio kuna changamoto. Ingewekwa kwamba the president is not involved kabisa. In fact, ingewekwa kwamba kuna a way Kenyans to vote for who is to be the IEBC chair. Yani iye kwamba kuna public portal whereby leo Wakenya wote, they don't have to queue, but they just use on some online means to pick their preferred IEBC chair. That would have been better, because sasa ikiwa rais mwenyewe anaamua katika wale watu watatu anachagua. Sisemi kama amechagua ama atamfavor, lakini let's assume kama amechagua ama atamfavor. Obviously the opposition will not be happy. So what I'm seeing with all this thing is that the opposition looks at the matter suspiciously. Wakiona kwamba if at all Ruto for example ameamua kwamba amechagua mtu ambaye atamfavor yeye kwa sababu ya Nanok, because they are talking about the IEBC being controlled from the State House. Nanok's guy, Erastus Ethekon. I'm not saying that Erastus Ethekon is going to be biased, but I'm just looking at the minds of these opposition leaders, what they are trying to actually argue here. The argument is that IEBC will be controlled from State House, kama vile unatumia remote control TV. Unatumia remote shift channels, unaangalia channel hii, unaangalia channel hile, you just use your own remote. So what the opposition is saying ni kwamba kutakuwa na mtu pale kwa State House anatumia remote control IEBC. Ningewachilia supporters yangu watoke
Can you imagine kama ni Raila Odinga alitolewa kwa kiti, ingekuwa namna gani? Yeah? Kama ni Ruto angetolewa kwa kiti, ingekuwa namna gani? But I am a responsible leader myself. I am a very peaceful man. I am a Christian. And I told my supporters, bitter as you are, please, violence begets violence. We cannot go into violence. Please go home and sing. And they started singing, and they are still singing. Sisi, we don't want any change through violence. We don't want change through unconstitutional means. We are determined to make Ruto a one-term president constitutionally through the ballot. Yeah? Ile sisi tu tunauliza ni uchaguzi ukuwe ya huru na that's all. And Mr. President, why people are concerned that this election may not be free and fair is that yule chairman umeweka IEBC is a friend and a colleague of Josephat Nanok, who is your deputy chief of staff. So people are concerned that IEBC will be run from State House. That chairman, if he is somebody who loves this country, to clear this doubt so that people can know we can have a credible election, angewachana na hiyo kazi, kuchukuliwe mtu mwingine. Because it's difficult to convince the people of Kenya ya kwamba a close official who worked with the Nanok, who is now your deputy chief of staff, can pretend over a credible election.
Because of course, someone like Josephat Nanok being the deputy chief of staff wouldn't want to find himself in a scenario whereby in 2027 there is another president. Sasa yeye amemwagwa nje, kazi imeisha. He will want to continue mpaka 2032 huko. So maybe the argument of people like Rigathi Gachagua and Kalonzo ni kwamba kutakuwa namna wanatumia remote so that azidi kukaa kwa serikali. I don't know whether that's the case, ladies and gentlemen. Just go below in the comment section and tell us whether you think that is the case. So perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.